Welcome to Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding entertainment in the macabre, hosted by the knowledgeable and lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond. Sometimes, even from the beyond. You can find us online at terrorintandem.com and on Instagram at terrorintandem.
We have a new host. His name is Mr. Richard.
Radio Joe.
Super serious intro.
Probably
Probably because this is a very special and serious episode.
It's a deep one. A murky, deep one.
Yeah, you were very serious, though.
I guess. I'm just trying to, not stumble over my words. Not blumble over burnt birds. That's all.
You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I mean, it can all be edited.
Hmm.
Right?
Most of it. Like me out of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, that would be most delightful for everybody.
Yay.
That's not true.
Aw.
Nobody wants to listen.
But I'm knowledgeable and lovable.
You're
would.
knowledgeable. I'm lovable.
Sure.
What do you mean, sure?
I agree.
That doesn't sound like you agree.
Sure is a word of agreement.
No, it isn't. It's a, I don't want to fight.
So what do you want to talk about today, co-host?
Well, I would.
Primary.
I want to talk about, what we prepared to talk about.
Killer Crocs.
And
but
alligators.
Also gators.
So,
Working title.
alligators and crocodiles.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Scary dinosaur reptiles that live in swamps, rivers, and eat people.
Well, yeah, they do.
They sure do.
People are invading their territories.
And they're good at it.
So I thought we could start out just talking a little bit about understanding the differences between alligators and crocodiles.
Well, I want to preface it before you preface it with a pre-preface.
Oh, okay.
By saying that when we began this episode, it started out as just killer animals, and then it became singular killer animals, and then it became, okay, reptiles, amphibians, and fish, and then just crocodiles and alligators, because honestly, there's a fuck ton of stuff out there.
Yeah, we wanted to really, we're going to do lots of killer animals, and they all deserve their own episode.
They do.
So they don't attack us.
Just remember that every animal in existence can and wants to kill you.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's the horror lesson to take away from this. But we are talking about crocs and gators.
And alligators today.
Crocs and gators, y'all.
So, yeah, let's talk about the differences, shall we?
Because there are a few.
Yeah, I have quite a few.
I'd like to hear some of those few.
So alligators are typically dark, black, green, or gray skinned. So they're much darker than crocodiles. Crocodiles usually have like a green or brown and typically mottled skin. So it's a little bit lighter in hue.
Yeah. Like mostly because of where they tend to live, because I know alligators and crocodiles come from different parts of the world than each other.
I don't think it has anything to do with where they live.
Huzzah!
So alligators have a U-shaped snout, and crocodiles have a V-shaped snout. Like, I'm going to eat you, is what alligators say, and crocodiles say, I'm going to devour you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's one way of remembering that.
Sure. Alligators have an overbite with the upper jaw jutting out and typically concealing the bottom row of teeth.
But they're really sensitive about it, so don't bring it up.
And they have 80 teeth.
Ooh, wow.
Crocodile jaws are more aligned. The top and bottom are the same size. And they have 66 teeth.
Yeah, they have like interlocking jaws. It's really scary. Yeah. Just overall, crocodiles I find much scarier.
Well, alligators have webbed feet. And shorter legs than crocodiles.
Those stumpers.
And they're usually smaller than crocodiles. The largest alligator can grow up 4 to 5 meters, which is about 15 feet, and weigh about 450 kilograms, which is like a little less than 1,000 pounds.
Whoa.
And the largest crocodile, which is a saltwater crocodile, can grow up to 7 meters, which is 23 feet and weigh up to 1,000 kilograms, which is about 2,200 pounds.
That's half a ton. Yikes. That's a croc ton.
Crocodiles have integumentary sense organs. I think I'm saying that word right.
I think ISOs is a good way to just refer to that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah,
like IPOs.
So like those black spots around an alligator's mouth and nose, those are ISOs, and they helps
only
them
have it on their head.
Exactly.
Crocs have it all over their body.
What those do is help them sense movement in the water, which is how they primarily detect their prey. And you're right, alligators only have them concentrated around their nose and mouth. Crocodiles literally have them on every scale of their body. Yeah. They can detect movement in every direction.
So if they're up on a mud slat, if crocs are on a mud slat and just the tip of their tail is in the water and you get in the water, they can feel your movement.
Yes, exactly. They are. I mean, the thing about both of these species is they come from the same taxonomy categorization that largely has not evolved in 80 million years. So crocodiles of roughly 60 million years ago were roughly similar to the ones that exist today because they're essentially perfect for what they do. They have no natural predators except for mankind, which is the predator of everything. They are just killing machines. Not only can they sense movement with those crazy ISOs all over their body, they can smell underwater.
Yeah. Alligators primarily live in North America and China, mainly in freshwater and closer to the shore. And crocodiles are mostly in Central America, Africa, Asia, and Northern Australia. They tend to live in marshes, wetlands, and rivers. And they prefer freshwater, but they have salt glands on their tongue that allow them to happily live in salt water.
So they can do both.
Yep.
Crocodiles, another thing about them is they kill more humans than any other animal on the planet.
Yes.
They have proven to have the strongest bite strength of any animal on the planet. So
because
if a
of
croc,
that interlocking teeth.
Yes, and their jaw muscle is like one of the strongest muscles known.
Yeah, because they can move it much like we can move our jaw, as opposed to alligators who just like chomp, chomp.
So a croc also has an incredibly acidic digestive system, meaning they can dissolve bone and anything really. So they don't have to pass or be selective in their eating. They will eat anything. They eat fish, mammals, humans, turtles. Other crocodiles sometimes when they're hungry or bored.
I didn't find any of this information, but do alligators and crocodiles ever coexist?
They live in different habitats, so not to my knowledge.
I assumed as much.
Yeah. And if they did, crocodiles would win. But an interesting thing about crocodiles is they have this you've probably seen this cool symbiotic relationship with the Egyptian plover, the Nile crocodile specifically. It's this little bird that happily and safely sits inside the open mouth of a crocodile and eats leeches. And the croc lets it do that because it doesn't want leeches in its mouth. And it's the only animal, really, that the crocodile doesn't fuck with. So the Egyptian plover has learned how to be friends with the meanest animal on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah. I wonder what that first conversation was like. Like, hey, so I noticed you're mean, but I also noticed you've got these delicious leeches.
I mean, I'm sure the crocodile saw that it was being tweeted about.
Let's just say it was probably the third or fourth Egyptian plover that was successful and not the first.
Yeah. So I think we should, unless you have any other facts to share, jump right into our movies that we wanted to talk about.
One last thing is if you're in the water with a crocodile, you're fucked. But they will also get you on land. They can run up to 11
and
miles
jump.
an hour. Yes, they can jump.
They can jump out of the water, not fully because they use their tail to propel them
yeah,
upwards.
they're
like
ambush predators.
a
so
pogo
they like
stick. Think of it as a pogo stick.
But they
almost.
can sit utterly motionless
Yes.
for hours and hours and hours, and then spring at you like a gunshot.
Yeah.
And that's it. Strongest bite strength. Like alligators actually mostly when they kill, they bite and roll to drown their prey because they're not as strong as
crocodiles do that too.
They do that as well, but the other one thing I wanted to mention was that bite strength on alligators is primarily down. So that's why you see so many like alligator wranglers. They're able to pin their mouths closed, and you can even duct tape them closed because the primary strength is in the clamping motion, not in opening their mouths.
Just for
this has been alligator talk.
Just for reference, scorpions kill about 2,600 people a year.
That's a lot. God damn.
Ascaris roundworms kill about 2,500 people a year.
Ugh.
And saltwater crocodiles kill about 1,000 people a year.
Okay, so they don't kill them. I think they're like the,
water though.
Yeah, like the non-insect virus.
When you talk about don't go back in the water because of sharks.
It's really crocodiles. Yeah, and a lot of it's actually sorry to make light of it because it actually is quite tragic. A lot of crocodile deaths along the banks of the Nile, specifically in poor areas, don't go reported. They just people just go missing.
Bodies are never found.
Yeah,
which
because
is
Crocs digest
of
everything.
What I'm going to talk about.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that's enough shit about these scary dinosaur monsters.
Yeah, listen,
it's pretty
there are
obvious
bugs
why
and,
we're afraid of them.
The saw-scaled viper and freshwater snails. Freshwater snails kill 200,000 people a year.
Jesus fuck.
So,
freshwater snails. Well, listen, it's pretty obvious, I think, why
it's never been okay to go into the water.
Why we have a fear of crocodiles is because they are a primordial beast. They are tens of millions of years old. They harken back to a time when mankind was not the dominant species, so they make us feel vulnerable. And
they really are the closest things to dinosaurs
they are
we have
also
available to us.
Literally, quite literally, they do come from a primordial era, and they are apex predators.
Yeah.
They have no predators other than mankind, and as we stated, even mankind struggles there. So
crocodiles know where you are at all times, but you don't know where they are.
Yes, they're excellent hiders, and they can sense anything. It's really so it makes for good fodder for what we're going to get into.
Absolutely.
You want to go first?
Sure. So I'm going to first talk about a movie called Rogue.
Yes.
From 2007.
Coming from down under.
This crocodile in the film was loosely based on the real life tales of a crocodile named Sweetheart.
Oh.
Who came in at 780 kilograms, I mean.
Yeah, 780 kilometers.
Still, 780 kilograms is still...
That's a big-ass crocodile, but I now can't stop thinking about a
780
kilometer, like, space crocodile.
Took up the entire Nile. In the 1970s, Sweetheart gained notoriety for attacking dinghies in Darwin, Australia.
Yeah.
And on 2 occasions, the dinghy occupants were tipped into the water, although they weren't hurt.
Oh.
Which is good. And then in 1979, a pattern of attacks started to become more frequent, and Parks and Wildlife Commission of the Northern Territory of Australia decided to capture Sweetheart and relocate him to a local crocodile farm. So on the 19th of July, Sweetheart was caught in a trap and anesthetized. But in the attempt to haul his considerably big body ashore, the animal got entangled with a sunken log and drowned.
Oh.
The body was then presented to the Museum and Art Gallery of the Northern Territory, where he was taxidermied, and you can visit him and see him up till today.
And little known fact, the man who caught Sweetheart barehanded was none other than Mick Dundee. Amazing.
That's a lie.
Just incredible.
That is not true, anyone.
They made
everyone,
several movies about
no
it.
one.
Documentaries.
So back to this movie. This movie stars Michael Vartan from Alias fame.
Okay.
It was at the height of his Alias powers.
Yes. Listen, we're going to let you in on a little TNT insider info. One of the hosts of TNT is a big Michael Vartan fan.
I love Michael Vartan.
I remember when we watched Alias together.
Love him so much.
I was like, should I just leave?
I loved his character. I thought that he did a great job.
He's very pretty.
Always wanted Sydney to end up with him.
And they, they did. And then they didn't. And then they did. And then there was that awful time when...
when he was dating that other girl.
Yeah. And then she was a spy.
Was so
anyway,
mean.
Alias is great.
Yeah.
Watch Alias.
I will say, just as a side note, an Alias side note, that when we were living in Los Angeles, I went into like a bougie like lunch smoothie place, and I saw David Anders with his dog.
Oh, cool.
Who played Julian Sark.
Yeah, he's always a good like bad guy.
And it was so cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the film. Rogue.
Big time listener, David Anders. Love your work.
Well, Michael Vartan, I think, is a podcaster.
Yeah, and an avid listener of Turn.
Oh, yeah. He's right here.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello, Michael.
We have an open relationship.
Good Lord.
Also starring...
With the crocodile.
Also starring Radha Mitchell from Pitch Black.
I know. She's in so much good stuff.
Yeah, she
Radha
is.
Mitchell is awesome.
Sam Worthington. And now these are Australian actors and actresses.
Well, Sam Worthington was in a series of independent films called Avatar.
Yeah. I mean, he's been on a ton
Yeah.
of stuff.
He was in one of the Terminator movies.
Avatar.
Yeah. Just little...
Yeah, just those little movies.
Black
and
House
Robert
Theater.
Taylor, and I'm saying Robert Taylor, I'm calling him out specifically, although he doesn't have that big of a role in this film, of Longmire fame.
Yeah.
He is Longmire.
Also,
and he is a very well-known Australian actor.
He was one of the agents in the first Matrix movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then a young Maya Wasikowska.
Oh, yeah, Mia Wasikowska.
Oh,
yeah.
my God, I'm never going to be able to pronounce her name.
But we all know her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's probably about 13 in this movie.
Little kid in this one.
And it was filmed around the Yellow Water Billabong, Catherine Gorge, and Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory of Australia. So it was actually filmed in Australia. And according to Michael Vartan, he had never been to Australia. And so he said that really enhanced the experience of filming this movie.
Yeah.
He and Radha Mitchell were reluctant to sign on to this film initially, but when they talked to the the writer and director, Greg McLean, who had also made Wolf Creek.
Yes.
They were convinced that it was a good idea.
Now, I primarily know...
Radha Mitchell had just come off of Silent Hill.
Yes.
So she was also like, I don't know if I want to keep making these horror movies, but Silent Hill was really great. So
I know Greg McLean primarily from Wolf Creek, that franchise, and damn, if you're into just real mean slasher type movies, watch those. In an outback setting, it is holy shit. They are great. And I think they did a TV series as well. Become a huge hit.
So when an American journalist reluctantly goes on a river cruise tour in Kakadu National Park, along with the other tourists, they soon realize they're being hunted by an 8-meter man-eating crocodile.
Jesus Christ.
So it is... I will tell you, this movie came out in 2007. It doesn't end well for many of them.
No.
But what's interesting about this film and why I wanted to talk about it, well, besides the Michael Vartan of it all,
Good God.
is the tension building is really great.
Yeah.
It definitely has a lot of what would you do in this circumstance, because it's just normal people on a river boat tour that get their boat tipped by a crocodile and they don't know what to do about it. They really are defenseless. And, you know, nobody really knows they're there because they thought they saw a flare, so they went off course. So it's, again, a little troubling for rescue sake. But it's really just about people's perseverance, people's decision making, how fear overcomes them. And ultimately, as we all know, he would be, Michael Vartan is the hero of it all.
Well, definitely give this one a chance, because I remember when it came out, it was just sort of farted out on a DVD in America under like one of those after midnight or after dark, you know, like labels that Miramax or Dimension used to do. So, and, you know, the box art is a little cheesy and it kind of...
Yeah, but it's a serious take on a crocodile movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like, give it a shot.
Overly CGI'd, although it is CGI'd. It is, you know, it feels pretty genuine.
I'm just saying the way it was released in America, it was easy to overlook. And this is a hidden gem for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is my first.
Nice. All right. So you know what? I'm going to get this one out of the way. I don't normally like to do this. It's actually the opposite of what I wanted to do on this podcast is I don't like to talk about movies.
Oh, you're really going to talk about this one?
It has to be discussed.
Oh.
I don't normally like to talk about movies that I didn't enjoy. However, I specifically watched this movie for this episode. It had been highly recommended to me, and it got a lot of positive buzz. And if I had to sit through it, then I'm going to take a couple of minutes to talk about it. I am talking about the 2018 Thai film The Pool, directed by Peng Lumpramphulong. And I do apologize. I tried to find pronunciation online, and I couldn't really find any, and I'm sure I didn't get that correct. However, that's as much as my apology extends. So this movie, listen, it's not without its merits. It was competently shot. It does have moments of tension. It's just very silly. And, well, okay. So this guy is on the last day of a TV commercial shoot at a public pool, and he falls asleep on the pool float. And when he wakes up, he realizes that everybody's gone, and somebody had hit the, drain pool button. So, most of the water's, well, it's a lever.
Oh, okay.
So most of the water's gone, and
is this inside or outside?
This is an outdoor Olympic-sized pool.
Okay.
It's abandoned. No one uses it, so everybody's gone. He's on a pool float, and now the water is too low for him to get out. And for some reason, this pool doesn't have ladders. A single ladder. Now, the thing about this movie is it's bad, but also it's really, really bad. Other than that, though, it's terrible. So it's basically like Chekhov's gun and Murphy's Law on infinite repeat, meaning like Chekhov's gun is that trope of if you see a gun on the table in a play, that gun's going to be used. It's not there for no reason. So like you'll see something and then that'll be a plot device. Everything you see in this movie becomes a plot device like 15 minutes later. And it's a series of him trying things and those things failing terribly over and over and over again. And it's, I don't mean to be cruel, but you have to give me a reason to root for the protagonist. And when the protagonist is someone who, like, I can't believe he's even survived this long in normal life, let alone in this extraordinary situation. So anyway, he's stuck in this pool, and to make matters worse, a crocodile falls in.
Yikers.
It's not really explained where this crocodile comes from. Now, crocodiles do live in Thailand, but anyway, so he's in a pool with a crocodile, and then for some reason his girlfriend comes, and tries to dive in, even though there's not enough water to dive into. And she hurts herself because, yes. And so anyway, she's also pregnant. There's this really weird, like, super pro-life subplot that I did not expect and was very jarring. And I'm going to just say two more things about this movie. The CGI is Sharknado level bad. It's very hard to take anything seriously when the crocodile effects are worse than an episode of Babylon 5. So the other thing is, I'm going to spoil something.
Well, this is how old of a film?
From 2018.
Oh, okay. So it's fairly recent.
You can fast forward a minute if you want this part
ruined. If you're still interested in watching this random movie.
Hey, are you interested in watching this guy's loyal dog save his life a bunch of times over 6 days and then strangle itself slowly in slow motion over like 30 seconds? Then I've got the movie for you. I don't understand. That's how he, by the way, that's how he escapes. He unchains his dead dog and climbs up the chain to pull his now drowned girlfriend out of an adjacent pool and scream her back to life. So
I just want to chime in here. There was also a dog in Rogue that was owned by Radha Mitchell's character. And, she was incapacitated at one point and asked Michael Vartan to take care of it. And that was one of the beefs I had with this film was Michael Vartan wasn't like, he wasn't cruel to the dog, but he was like annoyed by the dog.
Like
he was
grump.
like, come on, stop barking. What are you looking at? But the dog was being super helpful. And then the dog actually like sacrificed himself to save Michael Vartan.
Okay. Note to filmmakers. I don't want to watch that. Nobody wants
off
to fucking
screen.
watch that.
It's off screen.
Oh, but that's at
you
least
don't
something.
see it, but it's implied.
This was extremely very much on screen.
But no
there
real
were close-ups.
Animals were hurt in the filming of these films. And that was made clear.
They do make this statement right at the beginning of the movie that no animals were hurt. So obviously they did not kill and by the way, it's like a real fluffy, like lovable looking pooch. And Jesus Christ, there are close-ups of the dog's face as it's dying. It's a very deliberate choice on the director's part. And why? Why? Anyway, that's The Pool. You can catch it on Shudder. I won't recommend it, but I did spend 90 minutes of my life watching it for this episode, and it has like a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, but then on IMDb it's like 5 something, so I don't know what's going on with this movie. It's bad.
Well, since that was so uplifting, why don't we take a quick break?
Yay!
Crocodiles are...
You finally decided to leave the office and make some time for that adventure you've always dreamed about. But what happens if you miss the boat for that guided tour down the Amazon? Or if the only guides through the haunted Aztec ruins are too expensive? Well, there's always a seat for you at Off-Brand Adventure Tours, where every adventure is an adventure of its own. And by that I mean your chances of survival are almost zero. At Off-Brand Adventure Tours, our untrained death magnets will guide you part of the way through dangerous locales before disappearing entirely or getting eaten in front of you. Then, you and your traumatized group of weekend warriors get to spend the rest of your time getting to know the digestive systems of the local fauna. Fun. No location is too taboo, too cursed by ancient gods, or too full of anacondas for off-brand adventure tours. Worried about money? We'll talk rates when you totally get back safe with all of your limbs and loved ones. You can't afford the best or the rest, so let's just skip the bullshit and get on the boat already. Come find out if there really are snakes out here this big at Off-Brand Adventure Tours, where you absolutely get what you pay for. This is a fake ad for a fake service on a horror-themed podcast. We do not condone nor endorse utilizing the services of a sketchy riverboat guide with a culturally insensitive accent. Ooh, and listen, I am sorry about that. I don't like to poop on movies because they're really hard to make, and it's very rare that I actually
even dislike a
really
movie.
But it's also it's rare that I dislike a movie to the point of being upset by it. But it really was the slow, deliberate death of the dog that was like, oh fuck this movie.
Yeah.
That did it for me. Otherwise, it's just a crummy movie, and I appreciate the effort. But the dog scene was like, I don't like this. Enough about that.
Yeah. My next movie is another 2007 film, another Australian film called Black Water.
To be honest with you, before you watched it, I had not heard of this one.
Neither have I.
Huh.
Had I, and now I have, and I will tell you this. I thought this movie was amazing. In doing research on this episode, I discovered this movie, and I don't know why more people haven't put this at the top of their crocodile alligator killer list, because
that list that we all have.
Incredible.
I keep mine in the drunk drawer with like hot sauce packets and batteries.
In the drunk drawer?
That's probably what I said.
It's called junk drawer.
It's called drunk drawer.
So first of all, this is based on a true story. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the true story.
Is everyone okay?
So two teens were trapped in a mangrove tree in a river in the Northern Territory of Australia.
Underneath the mangrove tree.
Sean Blowers, Ashley McGo, and Brett Mann, all boys, rode their quads near the Finnis River south of Darwin, Australia.
Again with fucking Darwin, Australia.
I know.
Woo!
When they stopped to cool off in the water, the tide rose and they were attacked by a crocodile. Blowers and McGo were able to climb up to a tree where they lasted 22 hours before a rescue helicopter saved them.
Holy fuck.
Brett Mann's body was never recovered.
Oh.
So.
I think I know where it is.
The crocodile was real, and the practical effects were the only effects used.
Whoa, hold up. They used a real crocodile in this movie?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Did you not listen to all the shit we just said about crocodiles? Don't put them in, really put them in your movie. That's bananas.
Blackwater's main cast involves a husband named Adam, his wife Grace, and her sister Lee, and a tour guide who's the first victim of the crocodile.
Oh, tour guide. As soon as you said, you just named several names and then said tour guide. I was pretty
His
sure.
name is Jim. If you want to know.
Pretty sure tour guide's not making it out of this one.
Essentially, they all go. They're on Australian holiday around Christmas time, and they leave their mom's house and they go to do all these different things around Northern Australia. So one of the things they do is they go to a crocodile feeding place and they see how far they can jump and all the tours. And then they decide to go out on a boat and do some fishing with this secondary tour guide because the primary tour guide took the tour out and they missed the boat.
Oh, so he's like a kind of off-brand tour guide?
Yes.
Yeah, don't take one of those.
So, we all know after this episode and hopefully before that crocodiles are super dangerous, especially in Australia. But
this episode brought to you by the Tourist Board of Australia.
This movie works so well because of how targeted and relentless this crocodile is. The strength of this film is really its pacing. It almost takes no time at all to get into the action. And there is a little bit of a nursery rhyme aspect to what's happening, that 5 little monkeys stuck in a tree and they start teasing a crocodile. It's a pretty well-known nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
They talk about it in here, and it's pretty sad. So I will say that this movie is not for the faint at heart. It is bloody and violent, and it ends ominously, and maybe not. You don't really know what's going to come next. It is not a happy ending. One of the characters.
Don't spoil it. I want to watch it.
Okay. Well, there's a particular scene that
I think
the crocodile's head comes right above the surface, and its jaws are wrapped around a recent catch. And this scene is so emotionally charged because of the anguishing screaming and crying of one of the women in the tree, which I also like that they, changed the gender of all the true story people.
You made me watch that part.
I did.
And
it was very scary.
Yeah, I'm sold on this movie.
And it's a really sinister, relentless film of a predator and its prey. And it's just really well done, and it's tight. Like I said, there's really only 3 characters. And it starts right away, and the tension just is constant, and it's really, the payoff is great. And again, it's sad. The ending is not a happy one,
no,
unlike Rogue, where
like
some of them get
friends.
rescued at the end.
Yeah.
Things don't end up as great for all of the characters. So,
is the crocodile okay?
I would 100% recommend this, Blackwater. Also, I would just want to say, this is probably going to be on one of my top horror lists of films that I've enjoyed.
Wow. High recommendation. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do like a surprise.
Yeah.
I was
Came out of
surprised
nowhere.
I liked it somewhere.
Yeah.
Also, when we do our Australian International
absolutely.
episode, I'm definitely going to talk about this.
Yeah. Fair dinkum.
Because we do have some Aussies listening. Good
We
day.
do. Good day, you bloody bogans. So anyway,
Stay out of those waters.
don't go to Darwin and play with.
So New York.
Was that supposed to be Australian?
It doesn't
My
matter.
God.
Aren't you going to talk about your
My next
film?
movie is a real palate cleanser after the pool. It is the all-time B-movie classic Alligator from 1980, and it is a fucking blast. Now, this one was directed by Louis Teague, who you might remember, longtime listener, from our Stephen King episode adaptations when I talked about Cujo. He directed Cujo.
Oh, nice.
This person has made 2 very cool killer animal movies. So Alligator is a blast. It is definitely a horror comedy, not like slapstick or anything, but it succeeds because it absolutely knows what kind of movie it is. It accepts it from the very first frame, and it really just goes with it. This is a B movie. It's a Roger Corman movie, that kind of style. Written by John Sayles, who is probably most known for his indie hits Lone Star and 8 Men Out and Return of the Secaucus 7. He actually got his start writing horror movies like The Howling and Piranha. But the thing is,
he likes animal horror. Because
this was written by such a talented, incredible writer, it's got a surprisingly tight script. So it's really, really enjoyable. Anyway, Alligator. It's got Robert Forster in 1980. So, he's only like middle-aged at this point. It's got a very, very young Robin Riker that he's horning on. And that's kind of weird, but whatever. And it's also got Michael Gatso as the police chief, who you might remember as Frankie Pantangeli from Godfather 2. He's just that guy with a real Italian voice and a great mustache. But
not to be confused with, was it Alligator that I started watching.
You started watching Crocodile.
Yeah.
Directed by Tobe Hooper. Yeah.
Don't watch it.
You did not enjoy it, and you turned it
I
off.
did not finish it or even really start it because it was terrible.
So Alligator from 1980 begins with a flashback taking place in 1968, where a young girl is attending an alligator fair in Florida because, of course.
They still have them to this day.
All the time. Yeah. What are you going to do in Florida? Take some meth, go to an alligator fair.
Don't eat the crab dip.
Yeah. So where at this fair, she watches a guy get mauled to shit by an alligator. And then they're at the end of the fair, they're handing out baby alligators to anyone that wants one. So she takes one, and her parents, who just, again, watched a man get mauled to shit by an alligator, let her take it home. And in the next scene, the angry dad, for some reason, doesn't want the alligator in the house anymore and flushes it down the toilet.
Oh, awesome. Great. Now it's in everybody's system.
Apparently, this is not the first time he's done it, because as he's flushing it, he mentions a gerbil. So I guess this little girl's dad flushes all their pets down the toilet. So the alligator goes through the sewer system and ends up in Missouri. Because that's where the family is from, and ends up in a city in Missouri that looks a lot like downtown Los Angeles. And it eats animals it finds in the sewer that have been discarded by a big pharmaceutical company that it is experimenting on illegal growth hormones. So the alligator soon grows to be something like 23 meters long, the size of a building, and eats everything. And Robert Forster is a balding loser cop who is a real gumshoe, downtrodden type, who kind of just, no one believes him. And then they lead this big police raid, but this movie has everything.
Really taking us through it.
Listen, this movie has everything. It's got a great cast. It's got practical effects, an animatronic alligator. Henry Silva, who probably best known, he's a very distinctive looking actor. He was the assassin in the Manchurian Candidate. Always played bad guys. He plays this awful, racist, misogynist big game hunter that they bring in to take down the alligator, and it's amazing. He is so good at being despicable, and then he gets eaten by the alligator, and it's really satisfying. But this movie just it is what it is. It knows exactly what it is. It's violent, it's bananas, it's surprisingly very funny. Quentin Tarantino specifically cited Robert Forster's character of Detective Madison as being the inspiration for Max Cherry, who was Robert Forster's character in Jackie Brown, which is the movie that revived his flagging career. So, it's a lot of fun. I absolutely recommend it. A quick shout out to the Halloween party swimming pool scene that I made you watch.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely fucking bananas.
It's 1980s parenting at its peak.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, there are just moments in this movie where you're like, you probably can't do that anymore in Hollywood. I don't think you could do that anymore. So it's
a good thing. We don't want to keep doing all this garbage.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. And a little bit of fun trivia about the movie is it was an early project of Bryan Cranston, who was a member of the crew. He worked as part of the effects team on the alligator.
Interesting.
Yeah, 1980, young Bryan Cranston, just making his way into the business, working on this weird alligator movie.
And then he went on to be a science teacher.
So yeah, it's got everything. It's a lot of fun. I totally recommend it. I think it's streaming on Shudder is where I watched it, and check it out. That is Alligator.
Well, let's talk about another horror comedy about a crocodile, this time called Lake Placid.
Oh yeah.
From 1999.
That movie is hilarious.
It is. So it's written by David E. Kelly, who is Mr. Michelle Pfeiffer, and writer and creator of everything that you have watched legally, and some others like
everything
Ally
you were
McBeal.
legally obligated to watch.
No, legal dramas.
Ally
Ally
McBeal, for sure.
McBeal,
Yeah.
Boston Legal, LA Law. The Lincoln Lawyer most recently
Yeah.
is a great show.
Seems to have found his niche.
Also, Big Little Lies, Mr. Mercedes, and Doogie Howser, MD.
Hey, Doug.
So this film is directed by Steve Miner.
Love Steve Miner.
Yeah. Starring Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, Oliver Platt, Brendan Gleeson as the sheriff.
Oh, yeah.
And Betty White
Oh.
in probably one of the best villain reveal
Yes.
of any Betty White
This was
experience.
one of her greatest
Oh my
roles,
God, it's so
honestly.
amazing.
She is so good in
She's
this.
so great
And this
in
was
it.
also the for our younger listeners, this was at the kind of the beginning of the
Betty White
worship of like she's a dirty old lady.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, she's always been that way, but there was sort of a rediscovery of Betty White in the late 90s that lasted until she died. And this role, man.
Oh my God, so good.
She's so fun. And she really is the fucking villain behind the whole movie. It's great.
She really is, and it's so great. I mean, this movie's been out for a really long time. So,
And also, remember Bridget Fonda?
I do.
Yeah.
Granddaughter of Henry
Fonda. Oh yeah. I mean, of daughter of Peter, but like she retired and quit acting.
And Jane Fonda is her aunt.
Absolutely.
It's like, you talk about Nepo babies now. Nepo babies were always a thing, and it's
I mean,
not a bad thing.
She was in like
Jane
a
Fonda's
bunch
a
of
Nepo
movies.
baby.
She was in like a bunch of movies in the 90s,
Yeah.
and then she retired and famously just walked away from Hollywood.
Or did she? She might be out there as Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Still, oh right, yeah, single white femaling, or as a giant alligator.
So in Aroostook County, Maine, Fish and Game Officer Walt Lawson is scuba diving in Black Lake when he's suddenly attacked and bitten in half by an unknown creature. And so shortly after this attack in Maine's Black Lake, the local Fish and Game Officer, Jack Wells, played by Bill Pullman, enlists the help of New York City paleontologist Kelly Scott, played by Bridget Fonda, to investigate. With only a mangled body as their starting point, Jack and Kelly embark on a dangerous mission to find the mysterious creature.
I want to quickly jump in because it seems to continue a trend from Alligator where I forgot to mention Robin Riker, who in this movie is like 24 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
Is the like world leading herpetologist.
Right.
Scientist.
Right.
With like a doctorate, and all that stuff. And you're like, wow, you're very young.
Yeah.
And not to say that can't happen.
Young Bridget Fonda is a paleontologist. That's fine.
Sure.
Because this movie is silly and ridiculous.
Oh,
so
yeah. It's also like an alligator swimming through water that never rises above like 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
And they can't figure out what kind of animal it is. And, lots of violence and like lots of losing of limbs happen.
Eatings and chompings.
And then they finally pull it out of the water and take it to, I think, New York for further testing. And
to the other Lake Placid.
well, yeah, they start to look into it. But then the end of the movie. This is it, people. Ready? 1 week after, it says I think 1 week later at the end, Dolores Bickerman, who is played by Betty White, is shown feeding breadcrumbs to a bunch of baby crocodiles, revealing the two adults that were actually a mating pair, and the surviving adult crocodile is later seen tied to the back of a flatbed trailer. So that's the one they took away, but they still have the big one and little babies.
Yep.
So
and she's been feeding them this whole time.
The whole time.
And
she has been the one.
She's basically like the town crank.
Yeah.
She's kind of rude and
And she's like, oh, you don't come around here if you don't want to, disturb this water.
Yeah. And it turns out that she's just has these pets.
Yeah, they're just her little lovable pets that she feeds, and then she's basically like, "Okay, kill."
Yeah.
A weird side note is that this Lake Placid has a sequel, third, Lake Placid, the final chapter, Lake Placid versus Anaconda, and Lake Placid Legacy.
My favorite was Lake Placid, The College Years.
So there are 5 additional films, which I will not endorse.
Yes.
But I will totally endorse 1999's Lake Placid.
Oh, yeah. Just please understand that it is a comedy. I remember when it came out, they marketed it like it was a straight horror movie. And when I saw it in the theater, I'm like, this movie is hysterical.
Yeah. And still, we don't know. Is it supposed to be a crocodile or an alligator?
Yeah, because it's like not, it's like unusually large. It's like a dinosaur, basically.
And she's been feeding it breadcrumbs, like crumbs to the babies, though. I guess that's all they need until they have a taste for flesh.
Talk about carbo loading.
But I'm sure she throws like fleshy body parts in there too for them.
Who knows? I always suspected it would be Rue McClanahan, but Betty White was the evil.
And wasn't the sheriff sort of in a like silent agreement with Betty White?
Yeah, it was like I won't look too deeply into this.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. That is a great recommendation. I'm going to finish mine up with a movie that I'm straight up going to say it's not going to be for everyone, but I truly enjoyed this film. It is directed by Tobe Hooper, who you previously mentioned, 1976's Eaten Alive, which is also known as Death Trap.
Ooh.
And I say that because it was with an exclamation point.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these films, Alligator, exclamation point, Croc, exclamation point. There's a lot out there that we're not mentioning.
Let me ask you a question, listener. You want to see a young Freddy Krueger get naked and be super rapey and gross? Then I've got the movie for you. Now, this movie...
I feel like that's what he was in the original
Nightmare
on Elm Street.
Not wrong. Yeah.
He was naked and gross.
Yeah.
I mean...
So this movie has quite a cast. It's got Robert Englund, Marilyn Burns, who you might recognize as the final girl of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Carolyn Jones, who was the hippie wife in the OG Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Remember her? She plays a brothel mistress brothel madam, under like pounds of makeup. It's got Janice Blythe from The Hills Have Eyes and Neville Brand playing the reddest redneck ever. So this is firmly... Oh, also, by the way, Mel Ferrer. Fucking Mel Ferrer is in this movie. Yes.
No one knows who that is. Babe.
From War and Peace, classic Hollywood actor. He's basically like, you can tell how much he hates being in this movie. But he's a champ. He does go through some shit. But anyway, quick side note about Mel Ferrer. He was in 2 movies called Eaten Alive.
Oh.
Yeah. I learned that because it kept coming up when I was trying to research this. Awesome. I couldn't believe that fucking Mel Ferrer was in this movie. Anyway, this is very much a grindhouse exploitation movie. It is dirty. It's gross. It's grimy. It is bananas. The whole thing takes place basically at this nasty rundown motel run by this insane hillbilly who has a crocodile next door. It's in the worst town ever in Florida. Where the local sheriff literally just watches all this stuff happening. At one point, busts Robert Englund for having an underage girl with him at a bar and says, now, why don't you just go and take her with you?
Ew.
So it's that kind of town. Anyway...
Where the crocodiles should be afraid of the humans.
So Neville Brand plays Judd, who's this like psychotic... hillbilly running this disgusting dilapidated motel, but the people that stop there are also really, really weird and insane. And I don't know why, but it makes for this very David Lynch type experience. Everything is shot through heavy, heavy red filters. It's like most of the movie is kind of reddish. And Judd has a crocodile in the swamp next to him. Not an alligator. A crocodile, because it's a salty swamp, and he had it imported and all of that. And he talks about it throughout the whole movie, telling like really scary facts about crocodiles. And Judd kills people with a giant scythe, like literally like death, and feeds them to the crocodile. And then, that's essentially the film. Now, this movie is trigger warning. It's a grindhouse film, so it's ultra violent. It has a lot of, sex and nudity and violence and all of that stuff that goes into a grindhouse film. It was on the UK Video Nasties list. It's really also very strange. It is a legit weird movie. It was not well received upon release, but afterwards has become something of a cult classic, and it really deserves to be. It's I don't know if I'd say it's scary, but it is definitely gory.
Sounds disgusting.
Listen, it's pretty wild. I would say it's as someone who's been to Florida many, many times, it's a very accurate depiction of Florida. My favorite part of this movie is how the female characters literally do everything, save the day, defeat the evil, and in the last scene in the movie, the sheriff rolls up after they've done all that and is like, okay, ladies, it's going to be okay. Stop being hysterical. And you're just like, wait,
boy.
What? So if you have any questions about that kind of man, I recommend you go see Barbie. It will answer all of your questions about why that is annoying. So it's an interesting pairing with some of Hooper's other work, like Life Force, because this is a very stripped down, almost single location movie, whereas Life Force is this wildly ambitious science fiction. It's much closer to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's a really strange and wonderful find. I do recommend it to a certain kind of person. If you like movies that are a little off-kilter, if you like the exploitation genre, this is a movie that should absolutely be on your list. One more quick note about it. I want to say that I do enjoy Quentin Tarantino's movies, and at the same time, Quentin Tarantino straight up steals everything from everybody else. The literal first line of this movie is Robert Englund saying, "My name is Buck, and I'm raring to fuck."
Huh.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Because it should. Yeah. So
Kill Bill.
Yes.
Part 1.
Yes. And I
He
do want to mention again, I like Tarantino movies a lot. But Tarantino likes to use the word inspired in a way that I would say is very,
transcribed.
Yeah. Inspired might not be the right word for it, Quentin, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, I really do recommend this if you've got the stomach for it. Eaten Alive, a quick shout out to William Finley's character, Roy. I don't know if he needed to be that crazy, but he was. And, man, just watch this movie. Grab yourself a Pabst Blue Ribbon, put in some dip, and watch this awful slice of redneck Americana. Eaten Alive! With an exclamation point.
Well, the last film I want to talk about, and I think we both want to talk about, is 2019's film, surprise, amazing film, Crawl.
Which I would argue, of the movies we're discussing, is probably the scariest one.
And I would say that it's Blackwater, but...
Okay, I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
2 days ago, I would have said. I would have agreed.
Directed by Alexander Aja.
Who directed one of my favorite horror films, High Tension.
And then the excellent, excellent remake of The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah. So it stars Kaya Scodelario from Maze Runner fame and Barry Pepper from lots of things.
Yeah, from...
Saving Private Ryan, The Green Mile.
And let's not forget the movie that really, really brought his career to a screeching halt, Battlefield Earth.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Hey. It happens.
And I believe it was written by Michael and Sean Rasmussen.
Okay.
I'm not sure who they are, but
Writers.
they're brothers. They're brother writers. What's interesting is that this was a $15 million production budget, and it grossed $91.5 million.
Man, I tell you, horror movies really do tend to have a return on their investment.
Yeah. So it's about competitive swimmer Haley, who basically goes into her hometown in Florida during a Category 5 hurricane to check on her estranged father, played by Barry Pepper. So it's really just the story of Haley and her father.
Pretty relatable story of a young person with a difficult older person that lives in Florida.
And the alligators are now infesting the town.
Which is basically underwater.
And yes, and they are trapped in the like flooded house crawl space labyrinth, trying to get a way out together
from multiple alligators.
Multiple alligators.
Yeah.
I wrote that. Multiple alligators.
Yeah.
So it's not just one in pursuit.
No.
They're here. So, you know, it's really a claustrophobic film. It's really very haute tension. Which is the French way.
Yes.
Because he is a French
that
director.
is also the name of his movie. Yes, High Tension.
And they're like I think it's really a pair of alligators. They're at least 6 meters. And they're after them. They're the only ones that are pretty much there. There are some people that are like trying to get out in a boat and
there's
crews.
another pretty memorable scene at a gas station.
Yeah. But it's very, again, I really like the conservative nature of how,
it's a focused
there's
film.
not a lot of people in it. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of dialogue in it. It's really just action and tension.
Aja's very good at creating a stripped down experience that is honed. He's really taken away everything that isn't necessary for the tension of the moment. So you get a very pure and raw experience. That's what Crawl was. It had some effects in it, but they were sparse. I mean, it was really about the relationship between the father and daughter, and the fact that they were very much in the environment of the alligators. Like, humans don't do well in water. We're not made for it.
Yeah. And also, she's a competitive swimmer, so it really does give her this really unique advantage, which I like.
Yeah, being able to like hold her breath and things like that.
Yeah. And outswim a large animal.
Yeah.
But
it's very cool.
It's just the atmosphere. It's a hurricane, so it's relentless in the nature of the weather, but it's also relentless in the nature of this animal.
Yeah,
animals.
that's the thing. Confronting the characters of this movie, there's several dangers, the alligators being just one of them, but the scariest and scaliest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I loved it.
I loved it too. And it was like, again, one of those surprise, wow, I really didn't expect to like this so much. I remember watching the trailer and being like, does this look really good?
I feel like you are a bit surprised yourself at how much you've enjoyed
Crocodile?
Killer Croc movies.
Alligator?
Yeah.
I know.
Because you and I came to slightly different conclusions, because we have spent the last several days consuming a lot of Killer Croc material. I thought, in my opinion, at least with what I watched, it worked better when it injected a little bit of humor, because there's something inherently silly about wrestling with, an animatronic crocodile. An alligator is a great example. By the way, Alligator is a straight up ripoff of Jaws, to the point where the score even kind of sounds like Jaws. It's hilarious. But the movies that really worked for me, like Alligator and Lake Placid and Eaten Alive, were also kind of funny at the same time. They were gruesome and they were scary, but they were undeniably funny. You had a different conclusion.
Yeah, my conclusion is that we should definitely take crocodiles and alligators seriously, and the horror movies that depict their like truest nature and ferocity are scary, because of a lot of mine were based on true stories.
I'm legit scared of crocodiles at this point. I mean, alligators are one thing. I respect it. I don't want to get close, but I am actually afraid of crocodiles.
I get very sick on the water, so I wouldn't be going on any of these tours in Australia.
Well, I do have plans to swim down the River Nile next week. I might cancel that now.
So, yeah, I definitely think the fear of these predators who really have nothing else to do but to hunt you.
That is, well, and there's no threat to them.
Yeah,
and they have this inscrutable reptilian nature. You know, they can sit completely still for like a day. They don't need to eat as often. They don't have emotion. They don't have the same. You know, they're cold-blooded. They're almost alien.
I feel like all of the fear and the predatory nature and the violence of crocodiles have been projected onto sharks unfairly.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, the thing is sharks get the bad rap, but in terms of numbers, they kill like a couple people a year. Whereas crocodiles are killing like 1,000. That's crazy. So they also legit look like monsters.
They do.
They look like you think a monster looks like.
How do you even kill one? That's the thing.
Yeah, they have natural armor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're crazy. They literally.
The only vulnerability is really their like soft palate when they open their mouth. But who wants to wait for that to happen?
I mean, just watch Alligator to see the lengths Robert Forster has to go to kill this thing.
So I wanted to end the episode by saying the nursery rhyme. So if y'all don't want to listen to it, you can just, end the episode here. But I thought it would be interesting to end. So this is, a pretty well-known nursery rhyme, I believe, probably in Australia or other places.
Let's hear it.
5 little monkeys sitting in a tree, teasing Mr. Crocodile, you can't catch me. Along comes Mr. Crocodile, as quiet as can be, and snap! 4 little monkeys sitting in a tree, 3 little monkeys sitting in a tree, 2 little monkeys sitting in a tree, 1 little monkey sitting in a tree, teasing Mr. Crocodile, you can't catch me. Along comes Mr. Crocodile, as quiet as can be, and snap! And away swims Mr. Crocodile, as full as he can be.
Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Sospanek. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're standing right behind you.